The Philippines history. In earliest years over 30,000 years ago, ancients Filipino are hunter-gatherer. By the 10th century AD, coastal villagers welcomed Chinese commerce and settlers, followed by Muslim traders from Borneo. The gradual spread of Islam was interrupted by the arrival of the Spanish. Led by Ferdinand Magellan, first landed in the Philippines in 1521. Magellan demanded that other chiefs submit to him, but one chief named Lapu-Lapu refused. Magellan led a force to crush him. However, the Spanish soldiers were scattered and Magellan was killed. The name Philippines comes from Philip II, who was the king of Spain during the 16th century, became a Spanish colony. The Spaniards did not gain a foothold in the Philippines until 1565 when Miguel López de Legazpi led an expedition. Along with conquistadors went friars who converted the Filipino to Catholicism. They were called Los Filipinos. By the 1830, Spanish culture and thought had penetrated into Filipino culture to the extent that the Filipino people began thinking about liberation from Spain. The government of Spain developed Filipino agriculture to the point that it was self-sufficient. Spanish injustice, bigotry, and economic oppressions fed the movement, which was inspired by brilliant writings of José Rizal. In 1896, revolution began in the province of Cavite. Although the Filipino rebels, led by Emilio Aguinaldo, did not win complete independence, the Spanish were not able to end the rebellion. In December of 1987, negotiations with Spain resulted in the Pact of Biak-na-Bato. All of the rebels were granted amnesty and the leaders of the revolution returned involuntarily exiled to Hong Kong. On April 25, 1898, the United States declared war on Spain. The commander of the U.S. Asiatic Squadron, Commodore Aguirre Dewey, was sent to engage the Spanish Navy in the Philippines. In 1762, the British captured Manila. The peace was short-lived, however, for neither side honored its agreements, and a new revolution was brewing when Spanish-American War broke out in 1898. They held it for 2 years, but they headed it back in 1764 under the terms. The Philippines was granted to the United States in 1898 following the Spanish-American War. In 1935, the Philippines became self-governing, but their independence was delayed by World War II. On December 8, 1941, 10 hours after the attack on Pearl Harbor, the Japanese military invaded the Philippines. United States forces under the command of General Douglas MacArthur withdrew to Java. Over the next 4 months, U.S. forces, with the help of Filipino guerrillas, routed the Japanese army, a great victory of U.S., since they effectively destroyed Japanese fleet and opened the way. In 1965, Ferdinand Marcos was elected president. He declared martial law in 1972, which lasted until 1981. After 20 years of rule, Marcos was driven from power. Then, in 1980, opposition leader Benigno Aquino went into exile in the USA. When he returned on August 21, 1983, in which he was shot, Aquino became a martyr and Filipinos were enraged by his murder. Cory Aquino also claimed victory and ordinary people took to the street to show their support for her. The followers of Marcos deserted him and bowed to the inevitable and went into exile. In 1992, Mount Pinatubo erupted and covered Clark in volcanic ash, forcing the Americans to leave. In 1992, Fidel Ramos became president. He improved the infrastructure in the Philippines, including the electricity supply. Industry was privatized and the economy began to grow more rapidly. Meanwhile, in 1998, Joseph Estrada, known as Irap, became president. Estrada was accused of corruption and he was impeached in November 2000. Estrada was not convicted. Estrada was forced to leave office and Vice President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo replaced him, and she was re-elected in 2004. President Rodrigo Roa Duterte is our present president. In 2016, the Philippines launched its first satellite, and it was called Diwata 1.
Photos are credited to the rightful owner.
Created by.
EHRA.
Thank you for watching.